Hey, just wanted to put together something real quick for anyone else who's just beginning out with FPV like I am. So I've transitioned over from where we use a off-the-shelf system. So something like this, which is a Mini 2. So you just pull this out of a box, pull this out of a box. There is software you'll have to put to make it go, but for the most part, from that point forward, this is all I need, and I can go out and I can fly. So with FPV, it's kind of similar, but also quite a bit different. So I just kind of drew some stuff out here just to make things obvious. So with the DJI, you have the drone and then you have the controller, and then the controller, you can attach to the controller a phone and in some cases a tablet. But with a tablet, you have to be careful because not all tablets are compatible. So make sure you check the compatibility list if that's something you really want to do. The advantage to a tablet is that you can see things a lot bigger. So there's things that I always see in post-flight editing that I didn't see during the flight. So if I had a tablet, I'd be more likely to see it. So for example, if you're at 125 feet and there's a car or a van, and let's say someone's standing next to the van, so it's, you know, horizontal next to horizontal object, that's really hard to pick out on a little small phone display. Tablet, a little bit easier. 40-inch TV, super easy. So with that, then you go to the DJI website and you download the app, and then with the app you can go in and you can make changes. There's tons of videos out there on how to do that, but primarily what I wanted to focus on here, I've got a steep learning curve going with FPV, so I was hoping that maybe I could help someone else out who's had the questions I've had over the last week or so. So I ended up buying from a company called Darwin FPV this little CineWoop, and it's called a CineWoop if you're not familiar, because this is used for like real slow indoors type of flights. So it's got bumpers, so if it hits a person, hits an object, it's not going to damage the drone and it shouldn't hurt the person. Unlike this, whenever I build it, and if I put these on, you know, this 5-inch prop at a few hundred RPMs, that's not going to be pleasant. And so with the CineWoop, you have the ducts, which help to cushion things and as well as guard the props as they rotate. So in doing this, I've had to do things much different, obviously, than with my DJI drones. So with this, you've got the controller, which goes with the FPV, and then when you use the goggles, that's what's going to be used to view here. So this is what a controller for an FPV looks like versus a controller for a DJI drone. If this looks a little different to you, it's because I've got some Cine sticks added on there, and I've got another video where I review those, and so I'm still trying those out, seeing how I like them, and which ones I like the stiff and which ones I like the softer ones on. But with the FPVs, the controllers will have a bunch of different switches, and those are things that you can program, and that's all stuff, I'll be flat out honest, I'm still learning how to do, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself at this point. So with the controller, BetaFlight, and a BetaFlight controller is something that you're going to need to use to program what those switches do and how the drone acts on those. So before you can get to any of that, you need to be able to install it. And so that's what this video is about. And I'll have chapters in there so you can fast forward to the parts that are going to help you out. So in my case, what I wanted to do was I wanted to install all of this on Ubuntu and on a VM. So just to show that, underneath an operating system, you can always virtualize it. That makes it easy to do like a snapshot. If you go from one computer to another, you can often take that backup of a VM, and it's easy to place on another system, whether it's recreating a laptop that's crashed, a new one that's stolen, or just backup in general, like you want to go back to a known good starting point. So that's why I like VMs, and I'm running a Mac, so I'm running VMware. So I'm going to go through real quick how you can get VMware and install that, And then on top of that, you're going to need an operating system. So the BetaFlight controller comes with different builds, software builds, and those builds will work on Windows, Mac, Ubuntu, Linux, and then a few others. So in this video, I noticed that really nobody shows Ubuntu. There's Joshua Bardwell, who's got awesome videos on Windows, and I'll include a link to him in the description. But you know, when it comes to Mac and Linux, he's like, well, good luck. So kind of wanted to show somebody. It is really easy, but sometimes it's easier to watch somebody do something and then go from there. And then once I show you Ubuntu's installed on a VM, then we'll get the right BetaFlight controller software version for you.
What I like to always do is start from Google, because yes, I can give you the links that take you directly to it, but links can change, and there's always the chance that you'll get to the wrong file. Let's say you trust a website or a source of content, but for whatever reason, there's malware or a bad link. So what I like to do is show you from Google. So first go in, type in google.com, and then when Google comes up, you're going to type in VMware Fusion. And whenever you click VMware Fusion, this is what you'll get. So you can either purchase it or you can try it for free. So there's lots of videos that show you how to install VMware Fusion on a Mac, and I already have it installed. It's down here, so we'll just skip over that. So once you've got VMware Fusion, and you can also install this on Windows, so it's not just the Mac. Might even have one for Linux, but that wouldn't make much sense. So you've got VMware Fusion. Once that's installed, then you can install whatever operating system on top. So for the purpose of this video, I wanted to show BetaFlight on Ubuntu. So when you type in the same thing here, you want to start from Google, type in Ubuntu, download, and the version that you're going to want should be the very first result, Ubuntu desktop. So whenever you click on that, you're going to come up with this. On the off chance that something else comes up, just come up to the downloads, and you should see all of the versions. I believe you can also click on downloads here. And then right now, at the time of this recording, 22.04 is the most current stable release. So you can click on that, and it's going to take you to the download page where you can download the file. So whenever you click on that, it's going to start downloading. In my case, it throws anything I've got into my download directory. And then from there, then you can install within VMware once that file downloads. Even with half gig fiber, it still took me a few minutes to come up. So once that's installed, then you're going to go into the VMware Fusion that you installed earlier, and you're going to come up to File. So you've got VMware Fusion. I've got it already open, so you may only have this. You won't have this window down here. So you go to Files, New, Install from disk or image, Continue, and then you want to find the file that you just downloaded. So this is that Ubuntu 22.04 desktop.iso. And so when you click on that and you hit continue, it's got some scripts that are going to do some different things for you. The irony is this one didn't actually work. I had to still give it the username and password afterwards. Let's see, let's just give it something to get going. So you're going to give a username and password. I would check mark this, make your home folder accessible on the virtual machine. I think I didn't do that when I installed it. And that makes it harder to get files back and forth between your VM OS and whatever the host is, which in my case is the Mac. So check mark that box. I didn't, I should have. And then hit continue. And then here you're going to give it the resources. So back on the Ubuntu page, it has some suggested resources that you need to run that in any environment. And let's see if I can quickly find it. Here we go. So recommended systems, 2 gigs, 4 gig of memory, 25 gigs of hard space. So if you just go with the defaults that the VMware gives you, this was only 20 gigs. So far, I've had no problems. Internet access, of course, is going to be needed if you want to update. It has an automatic feature in Ubuntu where it checks the internet for a more recent version of certain things that it's installing whenever it goes through. So that will help do that in a stand-in load. So with that configuration here, and then whenever you're done, so you can see here 20 gigs, 4 gigabytes, 2 CPU cores. So keep in mind, you kind of want to know what you've got available on your operating system. So my Mac has 16 gigs, 2.6, 6 cores. So when I'm running this VM, my Mac OS is only going to have 4 cores because the other 2 cores are going to be using are going to be used by this Ubuntu VM. So once you do that, you just click finish, and it's going to take a little bit of time because it's unpacking quite a few files from this ISO and installing. And that part I won't show just because I've already got it installed. So whenever it's up, it's going to ask you for a username and password. So in your script to install, you provided that, so don't forget it. And then once you're on, you're going to have this menu to the left. So you'll have Firefox, you'll have Thunderbird for Mail. This is your file folder. You've got possibly LibreOffice Writer and some other apps that come pre-installed with it. So from this point, you're going to want to install the BetaFlight configurator. So if you recall earlier from the board, you have BetaFlight, which runs on your FPV drone. And then you have the software to configure it called aptly BetaFlight configurator. So at the time of this, 10.09 is the most recent version. So again, I want to show you a clean and safe way to get to that. So as I mentioned earlier, Google is probably the safest starting point. So type in your browser, google.com, and then type in BetaFlight configurator. And what I like to do is I like to skip anything that says add because they've sort of bumped themselves to the front. And from this point, you can see it's taking you to GitHub. That's the actual repository for where the files are, but I kind of wanted to show you a slightly different way. I want to show you from the BetaFlight website. So from BetaFlight, you're going to have menu up top, downloads. So click on downloads. Now this part is going to be a little bit confusing. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and I don't see anything that popped out at me at first to how do I get to the software. So configuration tools, what you're going to want, go to latest configurator releases. So again, right now 10.9 is the newest, and you're going to scroll down. And here, if you want, you can look through, what features were most recently added, things that were fixed from the previous version, people who contributed. And then under assets, these are going to be your different compiled versions of the code. So this is source code. So if you're a really hardcore geek, you could compile it yourself if you really wanted to. Let's say you're running an old Solaris box and you want to make it work on a Solaris machine. Don't know why you would, but you could. So Mac, this one is, if I didn't use a VM and I just want to put on my underlying operating system. But from what Joshua Bardwell said, there are some security issues with doing that. You have to go in and change some settings. I wanted to do it within a VM anyway, so that was all I needed. So even though Ubuntu is a version of Linux, the Linux 64 is not the version that you want to use. You want to use the .deb, that's Delta Echo Bravo. So you click on this BetaFlight configurator, and after a very short period of time, because it's only 152 meg, then you're going to have the file. So if you click on files under your downloads, you should see that file. And when you right click on it, you can open with another application and just click software installer, and it will install the BetaFlight configurator whenever it's done, it's going to launch it. So what you want to do at that point, what I suggest is right click on it and add it as a favorite. So if you notice this line here, when it's underneath it, if I close it, this will disappear. So if I right click and add to favorites, now it's above the line. So when I close and restart configurator, it stays. It's not going to go away. So we'll go ahead and close out the browser. So this is what BetaFlight is going to look like on a Ubuntu installation. So we've still got my menu on the left here. This is the BetaFlight configurator. So I was previously connected to it, and so now it's showing successfully closed. So at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and connect it.
As Joshua Bardwell mentioned in his video, which again I'll have a link to, there are different types of cables. So this is USB to USB-C on both ends. And so I connected this, and then I connected it to the laptop, and it did not recognize it. And the most likely explanation for that is that some cables are power only. So I use this actually to charge my Mini. However, I've got this cable, which came with my controller for my Xbox. Actually, I'm sorry, for the headset for the Xbox controller. And so this goes USB to USB-C. And this I can plug into here, and then I'm able to plug this in, and it recognizes that that's there.
So what it's going to ask you is, whenever it creates a new connection to a device, it's going to ask you, does it go to the underlying OS or does it go to the VM OS? In this case, we're running Linux to connect. So if you want, you can click remember my choice. I like to tell it because sometimes I'm going to one and sometimes I'm connecting USB to something else. So I'm going to hit connect to Linux. And so now at this point, it's automatically, because I've already connected this before, automatically connected. So that's not what it's going to happen for you for the first time that you connect. So let's go ahead and connect or disconnect. And so this is what it's going to look like when you first bring it up. So since I had this connected or toggled to auto connect, that's why whenever I plugged it in, it just automatically connected. So I like that. So at this point, you can jump over to Joshua Bardwell's video. Again, I'll have a link to it. He's going to go through the firmware flasher. And from there, we'll hit connect. The very first thing you want to do is go into your presets and save backup. And so what that's going to do is it's going to take everything. So in my case, I have a CineApe that's supposed to be a bind and fly. So that means in most cases that the manufacturer went through and made some changes to the way that the drone flies. They configured it to work with the devices that are on board, such as the GPS and the camera, and those will all work. If you ever flash this to a new firmware, it's going to lose all of this. So you want this backup. And if you're running the CineApe 25, I'll go ahead and include a link in the description below to this file. So if you didn't see this first and you blew out your file, I got you back. I got you something to get you going. So once you've saved that, then it's going to kick you out. So you just reconnect, connect to Linux. So the drone just rebooted itself. And at this point, you can start going in and poking around. So this drone, as you can see, has a gyro and an accelerometer and a barometer. So if you mouse over these, it'll tell you what they are. I do not have a battery connected to it right now, so you're only seeing the voltage that's being provided by the USB port. And at this point, this is as far as I've gotten. I'm going to be watching the Joshua Bardwell FPV configurator BetaFlight tutorials, and I'll have a link to that in the description below. So I'm still learning this. This is literally like week one of having this work. And so far, things are working pretty well, but I wanted to share with you things that took me a while to figure out, hopefully save you time. So with that, Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. And if you got this far, please hit subscribe and like, since obviously it was helpful. And as updates to this come out, then you'll see them and get notifications. Have a great day.